Welcome everybody to Bloomsday at the Irish Residence. My name is Eamon McKee. I'm the Ambassador of Ireland to Canada. It's my great pleasure to offer this teaser, these presentations and readings from Ulysses, the greatest novel of the 20th century, presented by the Joyce Ottawa Association. I hope you have a blooming great day. I hope you enjoy our short presentation. And please tune in tomorrow for our live session celebrating Bloomsday. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador McKee. Welcome to the Bloomsday 2021. I'm Philip O'Brien, and I'll be your guide today for our readings of Ulysses by James Joyce. You are part of an international event, in that Bloomsday is a commemoration and celebration of the life of the Irish writer James Joyce. It is a celebration held annually in Dublin and around the world on the 16th of June, the day his novel Ulysses takes place in 1904. It also is the date of his first outing with his wife-to-be, Nora Barnacle. This day, Bloomsday, is named after the protagonist in Ulysses, Leopold Bloom. First, who was James Joyce? Joyce was born on February 2nd, 1882, the eldest of 10, and at school he stood out for his intellect and his great singing ability. He was a good friend of the great Irish tenor of the time, Count John McCormick, who encouraged him to sing professionally. In Ulysses, there are numerous musical references that enhance the stream of conscious technique. Nora Barnacle, his lover and mother of his children, who lived with him in artistic exile, commented once she wished he had stayed singing because he would have made some money. As it was, his lifestyle was funded by family and friends until later, when he found literary patrons. He lived in Paris and was friends with Hemingway, Fitzgerald, and Samuel Beckett. Ulysses, the novel. Joyce worked on Ulysses for 10 years. It loosely mirrors Homer's Odyssey and deals with sex, drink, adultery, life, and death. The writing styles vary and the language is colorful and creative. It is Irish at its core, and besides being focused on Dublin, it deals with religion and guilt. Ulysses takes place over the course of a single day, June 16th, 1904, in Dublin, Ireland. Much of Joyce's energy is expended on recreating Dublin, from the smells and sights to the layout of the streets. To this day, you can walk the city, following in the footsteps of Leopold Bloom, and see much of what he would have seen. Yet when he wrote the book, Joyce hadn't lived in Dublin for many years, working almost completely from memory in the days before Google Street View. Ulysses was initially serialized between 1918 and 1920 and published as a novel in 1922. It was labeled pornographic and banned in the United States until 1934. Many folks have made the mistake, like me, of trying to read Ulysses like it was any old ordinary novel. It isn't. Joyce said, "I've put in so many enigmas and puzzles that it will keep the professors busy for centuries, arguing over what it meant." In other words, the allusions and references are the point. So don't beat yourself up for not getting it immediately. Hopefully, today our readers will help a little in the understanding. To set the stage, the setting is Edwardian Dublin. Ladies had stomachs held in with corsets that assisted in having bosoms bursting out. Their behinds were padded for extra dimension. Parasols were required for them to maintain balance. Men wore three-piece suits with upturned shirt collars, bow ties, walking sticks, pocket watches, gloves, and a hat. Pampered, mustaches were in. Buck Mulligan. Our reader today will be Ian Ash. The location is the Martello Tower in Sandy Cove. This is the one with the shave and the swim. The time is about 8 o'clock in the morning of June 16th, 1904, on the stairhead of the Martello Tower. It is on the beach bordering Dublin Bay at Sandy Cove, about 7 miles south of Dublin. Stephen Dedalus has just awakened. He is living in the tower, which he rents from the government, with Buck Mulligan, a Dublin medical student, Haynes, an Oxonian, who is residing in Ireland while studying Irish folklore. Stephen is about to leave the tower, and Joyce will liken Stephen's leaving to that of Homer's Telemachus, the son of the Greek hero Odysseus, or Ulysses to the Romans. Mulligan shaves, holding his shaving bowl as if a priest at mass. He mocks Stephen for not kneeling down to pray at his mother's deathbed, and it was that shock that killed her. They breakfast before Mulligan takes a swim in the scrotum-tightening sea at the 40-foot. Stephen is irritated and leaves, vowing to never return. Note, he is the one paying the rent. A small tidbit. The 40-foot was an all-male nude bathing area. A female invasion took place in the 70s that became known as the Attack of the 40-Foot Women. And now Ian Ash will be Buck Mulligan.
Stately, plump Buck Mulligan came from the stairhead, bearing a bowl of lather on which a mirror and a razor lay crossed. A yellow dressing gown, ungirdled, was sustained gently behind him by the mild morning air. He held the bowl aloft and intoned, Introibo ad altare Dei. Come up, Kinch, come up, you fearful Jesuit, for this, O dearly beloved, is the genuine Christine, body and soul, blood and ouns. Slow music, please. Shut your eyes, gents. Silence all. Kinch, give us a loan of your nose rag to wipe my razor. The bard's nose rag, a new colour for our Irish poets, snot green. You can almost taste it, can't you? The sea, oh, the snot green sea, the scrotum tightening sea, she is our great sweet mother. Now you, Kinch, and your mother, you could have knelt down, damn it, Kinch, when your dying mother asked you. You refused. There is something sinister in you, Kinch. Our guest Haynes, God, isn't he dreadful? A ponderous Saxon. God, these bloody English bursting with money and indigestion. Because he comes from Oxford, Kinch, he can't make you out and thinks you're not a gentleman. But you have a real Oxford manner. In nomine Patris et Spiritus Sancti. Ah, breakfast, bread, honey, tea and eggs, and milk from the old woman with the can. Now let us take a swim. Is this the day for the monthly wash, Kinch? The unclean bard makes a point of washing once a month. Give me a few quid for a pint. Hurry up to your school kip and bring us back some money. Kinch, do you know the ballad of the joking Jesus? I'm the queerest young fella that ever you heard. My mother's a Jew and my father's a bird. With Joseph the joiner I cannot agree. So here's to disciples and Calvary. If anyone thinks I am not divine, he'll get no free drinks when I'm making the wine, but have to drink water and wish it were plain when I make all the wine become water again. Goodbye, now goodbye, write down all I said. Tell Tom, Dick, and Harry I rose from the dead. What's bred in the bone cannot fail me to fly from Mount Olivet. Goodbye, now goodbye.
Stephen Dedalus walks the beach. Stephen walks on the beach, contemplating the difference between the material world as it exists and as how it is registered by the eyes. As he walks along the seafront, he reflects upon the things he sees: midwives, cockle pickers, boulders, a dog, the body of a dog, sea spawn and sea wrack. He then closes his eyes and lets his hearing take over. Rhythms emerge. Our reader will be Owen O'Kelly.
Ineluctable modality of the visible. At least that, if no more, thought through my eyes. Signatures of all things I'm here to read. Sea spawn and sea wrack, the nearing tide, that rusty boot, snot green, blue silver, rust-colored signs, limits of the diaphane. But he adds, in bodies. Then he was aware of them bodies, before of them colored. How? By knocking his sconce against them. Go easy. Bald he was, and a millionaire. Maestro di color Cisano. Limit of the diaphane in. Why in? Diaphane, a diaphane. If you can put your 5 fingers through it, it is a gate, if not a door. Shut your eyes and see. Stephen closed his eyes as his boots crushed crackling wrack and shells. You are walking through it, howsomever. I am, a stride at a time. A very short space of time through very short times of space. 5, 6, the nacheinander. Exactly. And that is the ineluctable modality of the audible. Open your eyes. No. Jesus! If I fell over a cliff, that beetle's over his base. Fell through the Nebeinander and not ineluctably. I am getting on nicely in the dark. My ash sword hangs at my side. Tap with it, they do. My 2 feet and his boots are at the end of his legs. Nebeinander. Sounds solid. Made by the mallet of Los Demiurgos. Am I walking into eternity along Sandy Mount Strand? Crush, crack, crick, crick. Wild sea money. Domini Deasy kens them, eh? My Latin quarter hat. God, we simply must dress the character. I want puce gloves. Proudly walking. Whom are you trying to walk like? Forget. A dispossessed person. With mother's money order, 8 shillings. The banging door of the post office being slammed in your face by the usher. You're going to do wonders? What? A blue French telegram. Mother dying, come home, father. The aunt thinks you killed your mother. My handkerchief. He threw it. I remember. Did I not pick it up? No, I didn't. He laid it on the dry snot picked from his nostril on the ledge of a rock, carefully. For the rest, let look who will.
Leopold Bloom, Eccles Street, home. The other side of the city, an introduction to the Bloom family, and an introduction to our ambassador, Mr. Eamon McKee. 8 a.m., Bloom putters around the kitchen preparing breakfast. He chats to the cat. He pops to the butcher's for a kidney, then back home, takes tea up to Molly, who is still in bed. Then, armed with a newspaper, he heads for the outhouse. Our reader is Ambassador McKean.
Mr. Leopold Bloom ate with relish the inner organs of beasts and fowls. He liked thick giblet soup, nutty gizzards, a stuffed roast heart, liver slices fried with crust crumbs, fried hencodes roes. Most of all, he liked grilled mutton kidneys, which gave to his palate a fine tang of faintly scented urine. Kidneys were in his mind as he moved about the kitchen softly, writing her breakfast things on the humpy tray. Gelid light and air were in the kitchen, but out of doors, gentle summer morning everywhere. Made him feel a bit peckish. The coals were reddening. Another slice of bread and butter. 3, 4. Right. She didn't like her plate full. Right. He turned from the tray, lifted the kettle off the hob and set it sideways on the fire. It sat there, dull and squat, its spout stuck out. Cup of tea soon. Good. Mouth dry. The cat walked stiffly around a leg of the table with the tail on high. Meow. Ah, there you are, Mr. Bloom said, turning from the fire. The cat mewed in answer and stalked again stiffly around a leg of the table, mewing, just how she stalks over my writing table. Scratch my head. Mr. Bloom watched curiously, kindly, the lithe black form, clean to see, the gloss of her sleek hide, the white button under the butt of her tail, the green flashing eyes. He bent down to her, his hands on his knees. Milk for the pussins, he said. Meow, the cat cried. They called him stupid. They understand what we say better than we understand them. She understands all she wants to. Vindictive too. Cruel, her nature. Curious mice never squeal. Seem to like it. Wonder what I look like to her. Height of a tower? No, she can jump me. Afraid of the chickens she is, he said mockingly. Afraid of the chuck-chucks. I never saw such a stupid pussins as the pussins. Cruel, her nature. Curious mice never squeal. Seem to like it. Meow, the cat said loudly. She blinked up out of her avid, shame-closing eyes, mewing plaintively and long, showing him her milk-white teeth. He watched the dark eye slits narrowing with greed till her eyes were green stones. Then he went to the dresser, took the jug Hanlon's milkman had just filled for him, poured warm bubbled milk on a saucer, and set it slowly on the floor. She cried, running to lap. He watched the bristles shining wirily in the weak light as she tipped 3 times and licked lightly. Wonder is it true if you clip them they count a mouse after? Why? They shine in the dark, perhaps, the tips. Or kind of feelers in the dark, perhaps. He listened to her licking lap. Ham and eggs? No. No good eggs with this drought. Want pure fresh water. Thursday. Not a good day either for a mutton kidney at Buckley's. Fried with butter, shake of pepper. Better pork kidney at Gluzak's, while the kettle is boiling. She lapped slower than licking the saucer clean. Why are their tongues so rough? To lap better. All porous holes. Nothing she can eat? He glanced round him. No. On quietly creaky boots, he went up the staircase to the hall, paused by the bedroom door. She might like something tasty. Thin bread and butter she likes in the morning. Still, perhaps, once in a way. He said softly in the bare hall, I'm going round the corner, be back in a minute. And when he had heard his voice say it, he added, You don't want anything for breakfast? A sleepy, soft grunt answered, No. She didn't want anything. He heard then a warm, heavy sigh, softer, as she turned over, and the loose brass quoits of the bedstead jingled.
Mrs. Breen and Bloom, Westmoreland Street. In this scene, Bloom is in search of lunch. He bumps into Mrs. Breen. Mrs. Breen is a former love interest of Bloom. He encounters her on Westmoreland Street. They chat about her husband Dennis, who has gone half mad, and about Molly. Bloom recalls Mrs. Breen is only a year older than Molly. Time has not been good to her. Our reader will be Eileen Cassidy and Ambassador McKee.
Oh, Mr. Bloom, how do you do?
Oh, how do you do, Mrs. Breen?
No use complaining. How was Molly those times? Haven't seen her for ages.
In the pink. Millie has a position down in Mullingar, you know.
Oh, go away. Isn't that grand for her?
Yes, in a photographer's down there. Getting on like a house on fire. How are all your charges?
All on the baker's list.
How many has she? No other in sight.
You're in black, I see. You have no...
No, just come from a funeral.
Oh, dear me. I hope it wasn't any near relation.
Might as well get her sympathy. Dignam, an old friend of mine. He died quite suddenly, the poor fellow. Heart trouble, I believe. Funeral was this morning.
Oh, sad to lose the old friends.
That's quite enough about that. Quietly. Husband. And your lord and master.
Oh, don't be talking. He's a caution to rattlesnakes. He's in there now with his law books, finding out the law of libel. He has me heart scalded. Wait till I show you.
Opening your handbag. Chipped leather. Hat pin. I want to have a guard in those things. Sticking a chap's eye in the tram. Rummaging. Open money. Please take one. Devil's it they lose sixpence. Raise Cain. Husband barging. Where's the 10 shillings I gave you on Monday? Are you feeding your little brother's family? Soiled handkerchief. Medicine bottle. Pastille that was fell. What's she?
There must be a new moon out. He's always bad then. Do you know what he did last night?
What?
Woke me up in the night. Dream he had. A nightmare. Said the ace of spades was walking up the stairs.
The ace of spades.
Read that. He got it this morning.
What is it? UP.
UP, up. Someone taking a rise out of him. It's a great shame for them, whoever he is.
Indeed it is.
And now he's going round to Mr. Menton's office. He's going to take an action for £10,000, he says.
Change the subject. You ever see anything of Mrs. Beaufoy?
Mina Purefoy?
Yes.
Oh, yes. I just called to ask on the way in. Is she over it? She's in the lying-in hospital in Hollis Street. Dr. Horn got her in. She's 3 days bad now.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and a house full of kids at home. It's a very stiff birth, the nurse told me.
Oh, sorry to hear that. Poor thing. 3 days. That's terrible for her.
She was taken bad on Tuesday.
Mind, let that man pass. Watch him. He always walks outside the lamppost, so watch.
Oh, if it's a fair question, is he dotty?
His name is Cashel Boyle O'Connor Fitzmaurice Tisdall Farrell. Watch.
Oh, he has enough of them. Dennis would be like that one of these days. Oh, there he is. I must go after him. Goodbye. Remember me to Molly, won't you?
I will.
The Ormond Hotel, The Sirens. This is the episode with the sing-song. The entire episode utilizes musical references. The section begins with a jumbled prelude of phrases and fragments. It turns out of the text to come. In the Odyssey, the sirens were goddesses who lured sailors to the doom. In this episode, the goddesses are represented by the two flirtatious barmaids, Bronze by Gold Mina Kennedy and Lydia Douce. They entice their male customers to drink and, by implication, entice them to their doom. In the bar, they're behind the reef of counter, watching the Viceroy's cavalcade go by. All the while gossip and giggle over their tea. Double entendre infuses their laughter and the whole episode. Our readers are Ruth Tynan and Niamh O'Brien.
Look at that fella in the tall silk.
Who? Where?
In the second carriage. He's looking. Mind till I see. He's killed looking back. Oh, wept our men some frightful Egypts.
Oh, it's them that has the fine times.
Am I awfully sunburned?
No. Did you? It'll come out. Have you tried it with the borax and cherry laurel water?
And leave it to my hands.
Try it with the glycerin.
That stuff only brings out a rash. I asked that old fogey in Boyd's to get me something for my skin.
Oh, don't remind me of him, for mercy's sake.
But wait till I tell you.
No, don't. I won't listen.
For your what, says he?
Don't let me think of him or I'll expire. That hideous old wretch. Oh, that night in the ancient concert rooms.
Here he was.
Oh. Will you ever forget his goggle eye?
And your other eye.
And your other eye. Greasy eyes. Oh, imagine imagine being married to a man like that with his bit of beard.
Married to Greasy Nose. Greasy Eye Nose. Saints above, I wish I hadn't laughed so much I feel all wet.
Miss Juice, you horrid woman.
Barney Kiernan's pub on Little Britain Street. The pub is situated near the courthouse where criminal trials were heard. The proprietor made a habit of collecting items associated with the crime. In this scene, we have the narrator, who is not identified by name, merely the pronoun I, and Joe Hines and Alf Bergen, who is fairly drunk at this stage. Alf has letters of application from hangmen, which he took from Dublin Castle. Afternoon pints flow freely, and talk is full of gossip. What happens? Confusion. Alf Bergen says that he just saw Paddy Dignam on Capel Street, and Joe Hines shares the bad news that Dignam is dead. Readers Kevin O'Kelly, Francis Healy, and John Linehan.
Come around to Barney Kiernan's. I want to see the citizen.
So we turned into Barney Kiernan's, and there, sure enough, was the citizen, up in the corner, having a great confab with that bloody mangy mongrel Gary Owen, and he waiting for what the sky would drop in the way of a drink. The bloody mongrel let a grouse out of him and give you the creeps. Be a corporal work of mercy if somebody'd take the life of that bloody dog. I'm told for a fact he ate a good part of the breeches off a constabulary man in Santry that came around one time. If a thirst on me, I wouldn't sell it for half a crown.
Give it a name.
Wine of the country, says the citizen.
What's yours?
Ditto Macanaspia, says I.
3 points, Terry.
So anyhow, Terry brought the 3 pints Joe was standing, and begob, the sight nearly left me eyes when I saw him land out a quid. Oh, it's true as I'm telling you. A good-looking sovereign.
And there's more where that came from.
Were you robbing the poor box, Joe?
Sweating me brow.
Health, Joe. Ah. Now, don't be talking. I was blue mouldy for the want of that pint. Declare to God, I could hear it hit the pit of my stomach with a click. Then Alf Bergen popped in round the door.
Here you are. I'll show you something you never saw. Hangman's letters, look at here.
So he took a bundle of wisps of letters and envelopes out of his pocket. Are you codding, says I.
Honest Injun, read 'em.
So Joe took up the letters. How's Willie Murray those days, Alf?
I don't know. I just saw him down Capel Street with Paddy Dignam.
You what? With who?
With Dignam.
Is it Paddy?
Yeah, why?
Don't you know he's dead?
Paddy Dignam's dead?
Aye.
Sure, I'm only after seeing him not 5 minutes ago. I was playing his pikestaff.
You saw his ghost then. God between us and harm.
What? Good Christ. Only 5? What? And Willie Murray with him. The 2 of them down there, what you call 'ems. Dignam's dead. Dead? He's no more dead than you are.
Maybe so. They took the liberty of burying him this morning anyhow.
Paddy?
Aye, he paid the debt of nature. God be merciful to him.
Good Christ.
Sandymount Strand, Nausicaa. Joyce himself describes this episode, namby-pamby, jamby, marmalady, drawersy style, as the sentimental style of a woman's magazine. Our reader will be Niamh O'Brien. The narrative sympathetically describes Gertie as beautiful and outlines the commercial products she uses to maintain her looks. She reflects with delight on her undergarments. Gertie's crush, the boy who bicycles past her house, has been aloof lately. Gertie daydreams of marriage and domestic life with a silent, strong man. The style is as if in a romantic novel. Niamh O'Brien will be our reader.
But who was Gertie? Gertie McDowell was in very truth a fair specimen of winsome Irish girlhood. She was pronounced beautiful by all who knew her. Her figure was slight and graceful, inclining even to fragility. It was those iron jelly-oids that she had been taking of late that had done her the world of good. The waxen pallor of her face was almost spiritual in its ivory-like purity, though her rosebud mouth was a genuine Cupid's bow, Greekly perfect. Her hands were finely veined alabaster with tapering fingers and as white as lemon juice and queen of all ointments could make. Though it was not true that she used to wear kid gloves to bed or take a milk-foot bath either. It was that Bertha Supple that once told that to Eddie Boardman, a deliberate lie. And she told not to let on whatever she did, that it was she who told, or she'd never speak to her again. A deliberate lie. No honor, where honor is due. There was an innate refinement, a languid, queenly hauteur about Gertie, which was unmistakably evidenced in her delicate hands and her high-arched instep. Had fate been kind enough but Willoughby born a gentlewoman of high degree in her own right? And had she only received the benefit of a good education, Gertie MacDowell might easily have held her own beside any lady of the land and has seen herself exquisitely gowned with jewels on her brow and a patrician of suitors vying at her feet to pay their devours to her. Mayhaps it was this. Gertie's eyes were the bluest Irish blue, set off by lustrous lashes and dark, expressive brows. Time was when those brows were not so silkily seductive. It was Madame Vera Verities, the directress of the Women's Beautiful page of the Princess Novelette, who had first advised her to try eyebrow line, which gave that haunting expression to her eyes. So she became a leader of fashion, and she never regretted it. But Gertie's crowning glory was her wealth of wonderful hair. It was dark brown with a natural wave in it. She had cut it that very morning on account of the new moon, and it nestled about her pretty head in a profusion of luxuriant clusters. And she parted her nails, too, Thursdays for wealth. She knew that it would take the shine out of some people. She knew. Her shoes were the newest thing in footwear. Her well-turned ankle displayed its perfect proportions and just the proper amount, and no more, of her shapely limbs encased in fine-spun hose and high-spliced heels with wide garter tops. As for undies, they were Gertie's chief care. And who that knows the fluttering hopes and fears of sweet 17, though Gertie would never see 17 again, can find it in his heart to blame her. She had 4 dinky sets, with awfully pretty stitchery, 3 garments and nighties extra, and each slotted with different colors of ribbon: rose pink, pale blue, mauve, and pea green. She was wearing blue for luck, a pretty color, and lucky too for a bride to be wearing a bit of blue somewhere on her, because when she woke up that very morning, she nearly slipped the old pair on inside out, and that was for luck, and lovers' meeting, if you put those things on inside out. Or, if they got untied, then he was thinking about you. So long as it wasn't a Friday.
Night Town. Stephen Dedalus's dead mother. Our reader will be Nora Patricia Marshall. The apparition of Stephen Dedalus's dead mother. If you recall from the beginning, Stephen did not kneel down to pray at his mother's deathbed, and it was supposedly the shock that killed her. Dedalus has to face his demons.
I was once the beautiful May Golding, but now I am dead. Dead. All must go through it, Stephen. More women than men in the world. You too. Your time will come. You sang that song to me, Love's Bitter Mystery. But who saved you the night you jumped into the train at Dalkey with Paddy Lee? And who had pity on you when you were sad among the strangers? I pray for you in the other world. 'Twas I got your sister Dilly to make you boiled rice every night after your brain work during the day. Prayer is all-powerful. Prayer for the suffering souls in the Ursuline Manual and 40 days indulgence. Oh, Sacred-Hearted Jesus, have mercy on him. Save him from hell, oh, Sacred Heart. Have mercy on Stephen, O Lord, for my sake. Inexpressible was my anguish when I watched you dying and expiring with love and grief and agony on Calvary. For years I loved you, O my son, my firstborn, even when you lay in my womb. Beware God's hand. Repent! Repent! Or the fire of hell to you. Repent, Stephen! Repent!
Molly's soliloquy. Reader will be Margaret Harvey O'Kelly. The tidbit for this is that punctuation, selection, comment, things usually associated with authorial control, are missing in this passage. The final chapter is called Molly's soliloquy. Molly is in the bed, just on the cusp of sleep. The entire chapter is from Molly's point of view, revealing Molly's thoughts. She's thinking about her husband, her meeting with Boylan earlier in that day, in that very bed. Her past, her hopes. Among other things, she suspects Bloom of having an affair. She thinks of women's lot in the games of courting and mating. She thinks of her lovers. She longs for a glamorous life. She thinks of beauty and ugliness. Her thoughts are interrupted by a train whistle. She thinks of her past life in Gibraltar and laments at the drabness of her present life. She thinks about her health and her daughter. She thinks about her visits to the doctor, muses about Stephen. Her thoughts turn to Rudy, her dead son, and of Bloom. She recalls a time when she and Bloom first made love, letting the reader see she clearly prefers Bloom to Boylan.
1/4 after what? An unearthly hour. I suppose they're just getting up in China for the day, combing out their pigtails. We'll soon have the nuns ringing the Angelus. They've nobody coming in to spoil their sleep, except an odd priest or two for his night office. Oh, the alarm clock next door at Cockchout, clattering the brains out of itself. Oh, let me see if I could doze off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What kind of flowers were they that they invented, like the stars? The wallpaper in Lombard Street was much nicer. The apron he gave me was like that, I only wore it twice. Oh, I better lower this lamp and try again so as I can get up early. I'll go to Lamb's there beside Finlater's and get them to send us some flowers to put about this place, in case he brings them home tomorrow. Oh, today, I mean. Oh, no. Oh, Friday's an unlucky day. Oh, first, I want to do the place up some way. The dust grows in it, I think, while I'm asleep. And we can have music and cigarettes, and I can accompany him. First, I must clean the keys at the piano with milk. What'll I wear? Shall I wear a red rose? Are those fairy cakes in Lipton's? Oh, I love the smell of a rich big shop at 7 halfpenny a pound. Or the other ones with the cherries in them and the pinky sugar at 11p a 1/4 pound. Of course, a nice plant in the middle of the table. I'd get that cheaper now. Where is it I saw them not long ago? Oh, I love flowers. I'd love to have the whole place swimming in roses. Oh, God of heaven, there's nothing like nature. The wild mountains, and then the sea and the waves rushing, and the beautiful country with fields of oats and wheat and all kinds of things, and all the fine cattle going about that would do your heart good to see. Rivers and lakes and flowers, all sorts of shapes and smells and colours springing up even out of the ditches. Primroses and violets. Nature it is. As for them saying there's no God, I wouldn't give a snap of me 2 fingers for all their learning. Why don't they go and create something, I often asked them, atheists or whatever they call themselves. Go and wash the cobbles off themselves first. And then they go howling for the priest and they dying. And why? Why? Because they're afraid of hell on account of their bad conscience. Ah, yes, I know them well. Who was the first person in the world, in the universe, before there was anybody that made it all? Who? Ah, that they don't know? Well, neither do I. So there you are. They might as well try to stop the sun from rising tomorrow. The sun shines for you, he said the day we were lying among the rhododendrons on Howth Head, with the grey tweed suit and his straw hat. The day I got him to propose to me. Oh, yes. Oh, first I gave him the little bit of seed cake out of my mouth, and it was like leap year now. Yes. 16 years ago. Oh, my God. After that long kiss, I near lost my breath. Oh, yes. He said I was a flower of the mountain. Yes. And so we are. Flowers, all a woman's body. Yes, that was one true thing he said in his life. And the sun shines for you today. Oh, yes, that was why I liked him. Because I saw he understood or felt what a woman is. And I knew I could always get round him. And I gave him all the pleasure I could, leading him on till he asked me to say yes. And I wouldn't answer first. Only looked out over the sea and the sky. I was thinking of so many things he didn't know. Of Mulvey, and Mr. Stanhope, and Hester, and Father and old Captain Groves, and the sailors playing All Birds Fly, and I Say Stoop, and washing up dishes, they call it, on the pier, and the sentry in front of the governor's house with that thing around his white helmet, oh, that poor divil half roasted. And the Spanish girls laughing in their shawls and their tall combs, and the auctions in the morning, and the Greeks and the Jews and the Arabs, and the devil knows who else from all the ends of Europe, and Duke Street, and the fowl market, all clucking outside Larby Sharon's, and the poor donkeys slipping half asleep, and the vague fellas in the cloaks asleep in the shade on the steps, and the big wheels of the carts of the bulls, and the old castle thousands of years old, yes, and those handsome Moors all in white with turbans like kings, asking you to sit down in their little bit of a shop, and Rhonda with the old windows of the posadas, glancing eyes a lattice hid for her lover to kiss the iron, and the wine shops half open at night, and the castanets, and the night we missed the boat at Algeciras, and the watchman going about serene with his lamp, and oh, that awful deep down torrent. Oh, and the sea crimson, sometimes like fire, and the glorious sunsets, and the Alameda Gardens, yes, and all the queer little streets, and the pink and blue and yellow houses, and the rose gardens, and the jessamine, and geraniums, and cactuses, and Gibraltar, as a girl where I was a flower of the mountain, yes. When I put the rose in my hair like the Andalusian girls, or shall I wear a red? Yes, and how he kissed me under the Moorish wall, and I thought, well, as well him as another, and then I asked him with my eyes to ask again, yes, and then he asked me, would I, yes, to say yes, my mountain flower, and first I put my arms around him, yes, and drew him down to me so he could feel my breasts all perfume, yes, and his heart was going like mad, and yes, I said yes, I will, yes.
Those girls, those lovely seaside girls, all dimples, smiles and curls, your head it simply whirls. They look all right, complexions pink and white. They've diamond rings and dainty feet, golden hair from Regent Street, lace and grace and lots of face, those pretty little seaside girls. There's Maud and Clara, Gwendolyn and Sarah, where do they come from?